Welcome back everybody to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I am back here. We are at the part 2 series of the Doom Tower final bosses. Honored once again to have Paintsier here with me. We will be covering the next 2 bosses now in this video. Paintsier, thanks again so much for coming back on.
No problem, mate. Thanks for having me again, and looking forward to talking about the strategies for the next 2 bosses. So the next boss that we're going to have a look at today is Sorath. So Sorath is the frost spider. We've got some thoughts that this one could actually be the first spider that we see in the Doom Tower, but we'll wait to see if that's confirmed. So some of the restrictions that this boss places are it reduces accuracy. So that's actually going to be a really big one. You know, for most of the other bosses, you know, we run like 200 to 250 accuracy. You know, once you get to there, you just totally forget about it. All your skills work and it's, you know, happy days. But decrease accuracy by 50% is huge. So to sort of counteract that, you could go for an approach to get like 400 accuracy, or else you might need to have like a way to cleanse it. Otherwise, none of your debuffs will be landing. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. So the next one is that these spiderlings actually cleanse the main boss. So if you try to put poisons on there or other, you know, like decrease defense and weaken, those kind of debuffs, well, the spiderlings will cleanse those. So it's going to be a challenge to try to manage that properly. So the next thing is, as it's a frost spider, it actually has 100% chance to freeze you, although that can be reduced if it's under HP burn. So it leads you to be very careful about making sure that you've got HP burn it up at all times. But that leads back into the previous problem of the spiderlings are going to be constantly cleansing the spider. So you're going to need to have like a steady source of HP burn. So you're most likely going to need it on a couple of different champions to try to just keep that up at all times. So the next thing is that the boss will actually increase its resistance and defense if it's attacked when it doesn't have HP burn up. So again, if you've got long cooldowns on your HP burn, you're going to run into trouble. We haven't seen anything mentioning whether there's a cap on it or not, but if you start hitting it a few times and that resistance starts to skyrocket while you've got like decreased accuracy, you're gonna have a really hard time beating this boss. So the other thing is that the spiderlings will they're going to transfer any decreased defense and weaken from the boss to themselves. But if you keep them under leech, then that won't happen. So you're best to try to keep leech on the spiderlings and HP burn on the main boss. So I guess in terms of the strats, things that you can consider, it doesn't say that this freeze can't be resisted or blocked. So in that regard, you can actually try to use high resist teams or block debuffs. The next thing that you can kind of look at is, you need to have a good source of HP burn. AoE leech will be good, less important than the HP burn. So if you have to choose, go for the HP burn. I guess the next part is that you need to continue to try to kill these spiderlings, because you just can't have them stripping the debuffs from the boss every single time, especially because the boss has like one last ability, which is the real kicker, that if you happen to kill it when it doesn't have HP burn, it will actually revive and bring back 2 spiderlings. So that's going to be tough. It's going to have ruin a few people's days when they almost kill the boss and then it comes back 50% HP, and it's going to be painful. So in terms of team comp, you're going to want a good champion to place HP burn. Some examples here are going to be Venus, Drex. So as we mentioned before, Drexar Blood Twin, everyone will eventually have access to him if you keep on buying the fragments. So he can be useful we mentioned before on one of the other bosses and also on this boss. So it's quite good if you get him through the fragments. Apart from that, Teela is actually a really big standout here. So worth just spending a little bit of time to have a look at her. So she has been a bit of a meme, a bit of a vault guard. A lot of people have felt bad about getting her, but finally she's found her home. So she's got on her A2 a source of HP burn, which is quite nice. She also does continuous heal, so that can help to keep your team sustained while you're trying to keep that HP burn up. She's also got on her A3 a leech. So this one here is AoE as well. So it means that she can place the leech on the spiderlings at the same time that she's placing the HP burn on the boss. And so she looks like she'll be quite a good addition to your team. And she's also like a secondary healer. Like you can't rely on her totally, but having like an extra source of continuous heal is definitely useful in a team. The next one is going to be like the AoE leech. So we did talk about Tila, but other notable examples are probably Yannicka, Enithwi, Ellen Errol, even like Foley and Temptress might be useful in that situation. There is a mastery that we might be able to use for this one. We've got this one here, Harvest Despair. So one strategy might be to actually try to place stuns or fear or freeze on the spiderlings. And while you do that, you can also try to place the leech. I guess if you're landing the stun, then it doesn't matter so much. But if it's like a fear where it doesn't work all the time, or it's a sleep where it might come off but then the leech persists, this can be an option. And the other thing is if you can extend the leech, then that might be another strategy where you have the sleep for a turn but then the leech gets extended or something like that. There may be some strategies where you can use this. I don't think it's like a perfect solution, but it might help you. You're going to want decreased defense and weaken. So while she's a void champion, she is worth mentioning. Venus does have your typical decreased defense and weaken, but she's also got the HP burn.
Right.
So I won't spend a lot of time because not many people will have Venus, but she happens to fill that role exceptionally well. As for like your other positions, you're probably going to want some form of DPS. So on this one, you can use poisoners, you can use your nukers. I think it's going to be better to try to lean towards your Royal Guards or Seers, like those kind of champions that are the AoE, since they will be able to also put some damage on the spiderlings and hopefully kill them. That'll help you out a fair bit. So that kind of combination should be pretty good. You probably need a Reviver because I'm expecting these bosses to hit quite hard. The other thing is, because you'll be getting frozen probably a fair bit, you may need to consider your Doom Priest again. She can kind of help keep your team.
Thinking that, yeah.
Yeah. The catch for this one though is that the main spider actually puts additional debuffs on. So while she only cleanses one, maybe she won't cleanse the freeze. She might end up cleansing the other one. So she's not as good as she was on the previous boss, but still someone to consider. That's basically it for Sorath. The next boss is Borgoth. He's a bit different in the way that he sort of works to the other ones. So his main restrictions are that you need to have shields against this boss. Like all of his abilities say that if you have shields, you'll get the lesser of two evils. If you don't have shields, then some bad things are going to happen to you. So
simple enough, yeah.
Yeah, that's the gist of it. So you really want to have some champions that can make sure that you've got plenty of shields up and like continuing to get shields throughout the entire battle. The next thing to note is that the Borgoth, the Scarab King, he is like an absolute tank. In the beginning, he's going to have 90% damage reduction. So you can hit him with like the biggest nuke and it's just going to shrug it off. The only way to be able to deal more damage is by reducing his maximum HP. So that doesn't mean dealing damage to him. What it means is you can actually reduce his total HP. And you can do that through things like the Destroy set, or there's some champions that have that kind of a skill. So in this situation, you're going to be looking for the shields as like your primary thing. So you definitely need someone who can place shields, and you want them to be able to do it on a regular basis because you can't have the shields down for any time. Otherwise, it's going to be quite painful because the boss can steal your debuffs and can start making life really hard. He places provoke, does extra hits, all that kind of stuff. So it's quite tough if you don't actually have shields up. You'll also want to have your standard debuffer so you can actually put some damage on the boss. So that's like your decreased defense and weaken. And you'll also want some form of DPS here. So again, it's only a single boss by himself. You don't need to worry about spiderlings or anything like that. So any kind of nuker is probably fine here. Poisons, enemy max HP is what we're looking for. So in terms of like champions that are good for shields, so one that I'll sort of point out so quite a few people will have got Drokol. from the previous Fragment event. So he has, if you book him down, every 4 turns he can place a shield. He also has some good buffs, and the stun won't be able to be used on the boss. So these will just be helpful, but he can place a regular source of shields. Other champions that you should be sort of thinking about are, like your miscreated monsters, your Valkyries. If you happen to have a Sir Nick, champions like that who are regularly just going to be placing it every sort of 3 turns, that kind of ballpark. Even Warlord, again, he's a Void Legendary, so not many people will have him, but that's the kind of ability set that you're looking for your shields. For your decreased defense and weaken, just going to be your standard good champions, whether it's Draco, Venus, Razen, Lydia, Fane, any of those type of champions. If you don't have access to them, your Stag Knight, Ghostspawn, Ceres, those champions will all be good. As for your DPS, again, you're just looking for your enemy max HP damage, poisons, that kind of stuff. There will be some champions like Verdos who actually have a skill that can reduce. So this one here, you'll see decreases the target's max HP by 20% and then adds that to this champion's own max HP. So this one here says this champion's max HP will be increased by only 15,000 when used against the boss. So it still does work. It's just is scaled down by how much you actually get a benefit from it on when it comes over. But it will still reduce the boss's max HP. So there are some other champions that do this as well. So you just have to keep your eye out for them. But we'll jump over to the Destroy set. So this is one that a lot of people might have sold some pieces of. Hopefully you've got a few laying about. But the Destroy set, why am I failing to find it? Okay, the other thing you can do is actually click on the information. And then if you scroll down here, you can actually get some really good information. And we'll get to Destroy. And you'll see here, this set decreases by 30% of the damage dealt. So again, if you're not dealing a lot of damage, then you won't be reducing max HP by a lot. It might be interesting whether you actually want to put this on some of your big nukers, say like on a Royal Guard or something like that, if you can reduce it down. The issue with this is that, actually you probably don't want to do that because it's capped at 8%. So you can only do 8% per attack. So it depends on exactly how much HP the boss has to whether that 8% is more or less than the 30% here. So you have to play around with that once we know the stats on the boss. But it is something to consider. So Destroy set, I think, is going to be a standout set. So if you have been selling all your Destroy gear, it's definitely worth starting to stock up on some. You get this from Dragon, if I believe. Dragon's a typical dungeon that you guys should be spending a lot of time in anyway, unless you're like super endgame. So hopefully you guys have got a few pieces stored away. Otherwise, get in there and start farming up some Destroy. You're probably going to want a Reviver again or some good healers on this boss. But I think this boss seems pretty straightforward to beat. I don't think it's as complicated as the other ones, but it might just be a real struggle to get that HP down. So I think that might be the challenge. So any other thoughts or questions about these bosses, Manny?
No, I think we just kind of wanted to stick to doing a general overview, kind of give you all an idea of what's expected, what you kind of need to look for. From my understanding, all these bosses are going to be available in normal mode and hard mode. So, maybe can get through it pretty easy on normal mode, and maybe hard mode will have the same abilities, but it'll just be a lot harder. There's a lot of information that we don't know yet, but at least knowing all the abilities definitely helps a lot in the preparation aspect of it. I want to thank everybody in my Discord. There's been over 500 messages in the Doom Tower chat about these bosses, which have amazing ideas. So please do go join there and check us out. Painseer is also in there. Feel free to tag Painseer if you want an account takeover. Definitely check out Painseer's stream. He streams quite often. And I really appreciated you having me here, Pain. I think we did a great job just explaining, just the basic fundamentals of these bosses and what you should kind of start looking into getting. So I really do appreciate it. I'm honored that you were here and you helped us out with this.
Yeah, no problem, Manny. It's always a pleasure to work with you. So yeah, just again, this is just a preliminary look. Again, it's like a first pass. Once we find out a bit more about these bosses, there may be some other strats that might be a little bit more efficient. But this is sort of the ballpark on if you're going to get through them and sort of brute force your way through, you're probably going to be looking at some kind of strategies like this.
Exactly.
Looking forward to finding out a little bit more about the mini bosses. We still haven't heard anything about them. So that'll be something, hopefully not in the too distant future. But if we check here, says there's also going to be 11 different mini bosses. So
Right.
what we've been looking at now is this one final boss. Although there were 4 bosses, each rotation, which we believe it might be monthly or something like that, that you'll see just one of those bosses that we've spoken about, but we'll be getting 11 of the mini bosses. So no doubt we'll have to have another session like this and start coming up with some strategies for those. So look forward to hearing about more of those in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And, what we do know now is that there are those secret rooms. They've already explained what's going to be inside the secret rooms. So start working on having your rare teams, all the different teams that they announced that will be in there, because there's going to be champion fragments exclusive to only Doom Tower. So you never know what great of a champion is waiting for us in here. Maybe it's a champion that's really needed. So be on the lookout for that. And do expect every 10 levels that you are going to encounter a mini boss. There's a lot of excitement. The fact that all this information was just plugged into the most recent update shows us that it is really around the corner. So maybe the wait's finally over. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we have this go live. So this way we can finally have some challenging and fun content coming up. Again, I really appreciate it, Payne, for coming on here. Definitely check him out. Check out our Discord. And thank you so much. Any final words, Payne?
No, thanks again for having us, and look forward to catching you guys in the next one.
Awesome. Thank you.